Part 3. Ionizer Technology and Terminology. Unlike many of the water ionizer companies, we are not going to try to dazzle you with a bunch of impressive sounding technological terminology. In fact, we are here to try to simplify things and shed some light on the truth behind the tech. Because this is a new technology to this market, most American consumers are not familiar with ionization terminology. Predatory sellers know this and try to use it to their advantage. They try to complicate things by making them seem more technical and advanced than they actually are or need to be. I believe it's worth mentioning that when it comes to water ionizers, in most cases, the more technical the product is presented, the less it actually has to offer. Flowery sounding terminology is often used to hide the fact that the quality of the product is not very high. Consumers deserve more than impressive sounding terms. They deserve impressive performing products. In this section, we will be covering the 5 aspects of ionizer technology that are most commonly misrepresented or spun to serve the needs of the seller. The first are the electrodes or plates, which are the engine of a water ionizer. The construction, size, and number of plates are extremely important, as all of these directly affect the quality of the ionized water produced by the machine. Water becomes ionized as a result of physical contact with the electrified plates. So the total surface area of the plates, which is created by the size and construction, plays an important role in the ionization process. The plates are typically made of platinum-coated titanium, which explains the higher selling price of the better quality ionizers using larger solid plate construction. There are basically 3 types of plates: solid, slotted, and mesh. Each style may be referred to by a different name and in a different configuration depending on the water ionizer brand. Many of the lower quality ionizers heavily promote and use mesh plate electrodes. Contrary to the hype surrounding mesh plates, the main reason they are used is to reduce manufacturing costs, nothing more. Using mesh plates allows the manufacturer to use much less titanium and much less platinum for each machine, which drastically reduces product cost. Unfortunately, it also drastically reduces the product quality and effectiveness. Sellers try to convince consumers that mesh plates are used because they are more effective, not because they are less expensive. They tell consumers that the design of the mesh plates are able to create a greater amount of surface area compared to solid plates. And in theory, a solid metal plate with holes bored in it could create more total surface area than just that of a flat, solid surface. The surface area, created by the insides of the bored holes, would increase the overall surface area, which would add up to be greater than that of just a flat surface. However, there's a catch. For this to work, each plate would need to be extremely thick. With these mesh plates, that is simply not the case. The mesh plates in most of these machines are nearly as thin as a piece of paper. The contention that these mesh plates have a greater surface area than solid plates relies on a mathematical principle that simply does not apply. But still, sellers that offer machines with mesh plates continue to try to convince consumers that they are the best choice. The following is actually a quote from a water ionizer seller's website describing mesh plate electrodes. This is where they display their most impressive spin regarding mesh plates. 5 of the most advanced mesh platinum titanium electrodes in the world. The electrodes are covered in a superfine mesh with very distinct high points and valleys. End quote. After extensive investigation and exhaustive research, it was discovered that the distinctive high points and valleys were, in fact, nothing more than holes. But what a spin! They took the fact that their plates have holes in them and turned it into an impressive sounding feature, one that would fool even the savviest of consumers. In order to truly understand the role the surface area plays and why the construction of the electrodes is so important, we need to cover some ionizer basics. As we have already mentioned, these machines ionize the water as a result of the water coming into physical contact with the positively and negatively charged plates. Having a greater surface area will allow the water to be in contact with the plates for a longer period of time, thus creating a stronger ionic charge. Here is an example of how the plate construction affects the surface area. Take a look at this picture. At the top, there is a brick wall and a chain link fence. At the bottom, a solid and a mesh plate. If asked which of the first two pictures would have the greatest amount of surface area, meaning the most surface that can be physically touched, most people would agree that it would be the brick wall, since the chain link has very little actual material and is mostly holes. Even if the chain link fence were 10 times bigger than a brick wall, it would still not have a greater physical surface area. That being said, how could the mesh plate, with holes pictured on the right, have more surface area than the solid plate without holes pictured left? Since the mesh plate is nearly paper thin, it cannot and it does not. Even if the size of the plates were identical, the holes end up depleting the total surface area, making it roughly half that of an equally sized solid plate. This is simple mathematics. However, as you can see by an actual side-by-side comparison picture of these plates, they are not the same size. In fact, the mesh plate is actually smaller, which means the solid plate would have an even greater amount of total surface area. Since total surface area is such an important factor in the creation of ionized water, it is vital that consumers consider the dimensions of the plates and their construction, solid, mesh, or slotted. If they are mesh or slotted, consumers need to find out if the reported surface area has been adjusted to reflect the negative space created by the holes or slots. In most cases, it has not been adjusted. There is one ionizer company, Vollara, that went from selling ionizers through the internet to becoming a traditional style network marketing company. We only mentioned Vollara because their ionizers use a very odd electrode configuration that seems more like a selling gimmick than a functional feature. It is called direct disc ionization. Since we are talking about both plates and surface area, it seemed the right time to cover this. As you can see, the Vollara disc plates at the bottom of the image are much smaller when compared to the plates of another ionizer brand at the top. When we conducted our own independent test of the water produced by the Vollara ionizer, the properties were extremely unstable, the flow rate was extremely slow, and the machine kept turning itself off after about 10 minutes of use, even though their water-cooled power supply is promoted as being able to handle continuous water production. When the Vollara machine was taken apart, we discovered that the housing was not waterproof, nor were the electrical connections. And all of the wires were connected using basic twist cap wire connectors, which are not supposed to be used anywhere near water, but were located in the direct proximity of the water flow, creating a potentially serious electrocution hazard. As is often the case in life, it's not what you know that will get you, it's what you don't know. Well, when it comes to Vollara, now you know. That's enough about them. Let's get back to discussing the surface area. Here is another example of how plate construction affects total surface area. Assuming the outer dimensions of all three sets of these plates were 3 inches by 5 inches, and there were a total of 7 plates, the solid plates would have an approximate total surface area of 105 square inches. The slotted plates would have an approximate total surface area of 79 square inches, and the mesh plates would have a total surface area of approximately 53 square inches. Based on these figures, it would take over 9 slotted plates and 13 mesh plates to even come close to the same total surface area of the 7 solid plates. As you can see, it is important to clarify how the total surface area of the plates in the ionizer you are considering is being calculated. Many of the ionizer companies that use mesh or slotted plates provide a surface area based only on the width and height of their plates, not on the actual physical surface area, which creates an inaccurate reporting and misleads consumers. On a final note regarding electrode plates, some of the lower quality ionizer sellers advertise that consumers can choose between mesh and solid plates when buying their ionizers. However, when consumers request the solid plate construction, they are told that those plates are currently out of stock and are then convinced by the salesperson that mesh will be just as good. Consumers need to be aware of this classic bait and switch tactic. The next aspect of ionizer technology that we will discuss is power supply. The amount of power that surges through the plates of an ionizer is one of the most important aspects of ionization, if not the most important. It is the amount of power coupled with the size, construction, and number of plates that will ultimately dictate the strength of the properties and the stability of the ionized water. More power creates more stable, longer lasting, more effective, and beneficial ionized water. Which type of power supply is best in a water ionizer seems to be a main point of debate throughout the industry. But, as you will soon discover, this is just one more example of information being slanted to accommodate the needs of the seller. There are really only two types of power supplies used in water ionizers: transformers and SMPS, which stands for Switched Mode Power Supply. The power supply we recommend is a transformer. This is the type of power supply found in the more robust, higher quality water ionizers. A transformer is an established technology that lasts longer, can handle higher wattage, is much more heat resistant, and is able to run for longer periods of time. Many of the ionizer companies promoting mesh or slotted plates also heavily promote the SMPS. They promote it as the most advanced technology available for electronics, and that even the newest plasma screen televisions use this type of power supply. SMPS does have at least one positive selling point, which is that it incorporates a switching regulator in order to make the conversion of electrical power more efficient. But let's take a deeper look at some of the realities behind this technology, and you will see why this power supply might be great for a plasma television, but is really not a plus when it is used in an ionizer. Unlike a linear power supply, the pass transistor of SMPS switches very quickly between states of full on and full off. This minimizes wasted energy, but also has a